Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this high-power panel discussion on smart manufacturing, or you can say future of manufacturing. I have with me Yogesh Jope. He is the Group CIO and CDO at Kalyani Group, and Suresh Iyer, CIO at Blue Star. Hi, Suresh. Hi, Yogesh.
Hi.
Hi.
So let's kind of set the context here. Manufacturers and the wider manufacturing industry faces uncertainties as we head into 2022. Not the least because of the ongoing global COVID-19 pandemic. However, last 18 months have also taught us a lot about resilience, innovation, and the ability of the sector to push forward despite the challenges. As we look at now, there are massive opportunities available to the sector. Most corporates, most global organizations are looking at China plus one sourcing strategies. The auto sector is in a revival mode. There's a huge Make in India push. And therefore, the time is ripe for manufacturing to up the game to become globally competitive in efficiency as well as quality with the use of technology. There are challenges as many opportunities are there in attracting digital talent, IT/OT integration, mining the vast amounts of data that manufacturing systems can generate, and contributing to the sustainability agenda. So digital initiatives in manufacturing, aka smart manufacturing industry 4.0 solutions and initiatives can play an important role in these areas and many more. So let me start the conversation. A very sort of global kind of question to both my panelists. When manufacturing organizations like you, when you're looking at, this entire set of opportunities, Make in India, China plus one, etc., and you're looking at digital-led renewal, if I may call it, to power your growth in 2022 and beyond. What are some of the opportunities and challenges that you see? Yogesh, may I go with you first?
Yeah. As you rightly said, last 2 years have been very crazy for industry due to COVID. But then, even irrespective of COVID, overall volatility in the business has increased significantly. If you look towards our kind of business, means the cost, you have constant pressure for cost margin, or the speed of new product development has changed significantly. Because in earlier days, if you talk about auto sector supply, the models which used to come earlier, and then the speed at which new models are coming in the market, this reverse pressure is on us to deliver the component. Similarly, traditionally, a company like Bharat Forge or Kalyani Group is diversifying, or we are doing a lot of organic and inorganic growth. So everywhere you need to have this speed, and then it is suddenly changed. This overall speed of business has suddenly changed, and that's where fortunately the overall technology landscape is also started changing, which is supporting this requirement of speed. And the things like industrial IoT or analytics, or the well integration with between ERP and MES, this everything is started coming in big help to the business. I'll say more of integrated manufacturing, where you are connecting your supply chain to the customer. That concepts are started coming in, and that's where I think lot of opportunity for organization like us to leverage and support business or thrive business on that. Thank you.
Suresh, your views. I'll come to the challenges part separately for both of you.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, well, I think I agree with Yogesh. I'm just going to take a slightly different approach here because I'm sure everybody has read about opportunities, challenges. They are there all over the place. But one thing which the lockdown of March 21 taught us is that Or was it 20? I keep forgetting now how much time has passed. Well, it's 2 years, let's put it like that. But one thing which it taught us is that if you were not digitally enabled, your business would have literally come to a standstill. Okay. So I think the realization is very high that digital is more of a necessity now. It's a business necessity. It's no longer a luxury. It's not something which you can take up as and when you want it, or when you feel that there is a ROI somewhere or there is an opportunity somewhere. I think the fact of the matter is, if your entire ecosystem, both internal and external, are not linked together, your ability to do business in such kind of situations is severely hampered. And frankly speaking, thanks to this single fact that most of us, our systems were connected, we were actually able to do a whole lot of things, and it has made us also realize what else we can do in that process. Okay, the fact that we could operate remotely, the fact that our factories could operate at minimum staff with keeping the supervisors at home because they could monitor everything from home, they didn't need to be in the office at any or in the factories at any point in time. Our servicing continued even from home, thanks to our equipment being connected over the net. The fact that all of this was happening for us even in spite of the lockdown was of a tremendous advantage. Okay, and it enabled us to keep our head above water very, very easily. Okay, and thanks to what we have experienced, now we are seeing a tremendous value in whatever we have done, and now we are seeing a lot of other things happening around it, which allows us to start looking at those gaps which are present. Okay, which we didn't realize earlier, but now it's very much evident, and those are the things which we are trying to plug in. So opportunities and challenges apart, the necessity factor is much more, much more a focus than anything else, and today we are all in for it. We simply are looking at how to collect more and more of the data, making sure the data is getting transmitted from one place to another rather than having to recreate it anywhere. And these are basic, if you remember, that's how IT started, right? The necessity to have data sitting in systems and move. I think it has come of a very high maturity at this point in time, and that's where I see this whole thing now today.
No, I think what I gather from you, Suresh, when you say necessity of digital media or digital options, I think the biggest opportunity is that readiness, in your CXOs, amongst your employees and everybody, that hey, this is inevitable. We need to do it. I remember, IT has been always looked at with a bit of cynicism, but I think now there is far more traction, and I think that creates an opportunity to drive dialogues around value transformation, changing the processes. But now let me come to the other important part of the question. And Suresh, let's start with you. Tell me the top three challenges you face, when driving either digital, changes or adoption in the organization.
Okay. See, one would always assume that money or budgets are always the primary challenge, but frankly speaking, it's not so. Okay. I think the days are gone when people used to look at money in a certain way. Okay. And IT has come a long way from where it was. It's no longer a support function. Okay. I think it is becoming more of a business driver where it's trying to enable businesses to handle new situations of today with better ways, better solutions. And that is where I see a one big challenge. Okay, earlier we used to do IT used to do process automation. Businesses used to have a process. You only had to bring in a solution or a package and automate it. That's about it, right? There's nothing much beyond that. But today digital is completely different. Okay, either the business person needs to understand technology in order to leverage digital to its max for his business, or the IT guy has to become business proficient in order to be able to enable his businesses with the best possible solutions from digital. Both are not possible as of now. Okay, I think both are converging towards it. Maybe the IT guy may become more business savvy than one would think as compared to the other side, but unless this congruence happens where the business and IT are having a collective knowledge and awareness about both the business and digital, the true evolution of digital may still take a lot of time. Okay, because it's in that knowledge where you find powerful solutions, and that is one big challenge which I'm seeing happening. I think it's a phenomenon everywhere. It may not be just true for one or two companies, but it's getting there. I think, again, thanks to COVID, is may have become the biggest game changer, to be honest, although it has left a lot of side effects or unwanted side effects which nobody really look forward to. But it has enabled that business also to come closer to digital. thanks to the fact that everything was digital in those days. Okay, so that's one big challenge. Second is, again, as I said, there is a way of doing things, right? People have a way of doing things, and we are a very old company, and there is a particular set of processes which have been defined and put in place. Digital comes and changes that. Okay, and that ability to change or have the business person also appreciate that change which has happened and take it forward, I think there's still some distance for them to go, because that is where we see still some disbelief. And maybe the data which is coming out is far more accurate than what it used to be, thanks to the automation which has happened, but there's still, it may not be to the advantage as well. Okay, so knowing that this is more accurate rather than not being the truth, I think that is where again you will see some level of skepticism coming in, which is where adoption starts becoming a little bit more, especially in critical processes, anything which touches margins, for example, or any pricing aspect. That's where we will continue to see a lot of pushbacks, but it's a slow process, but we'll get there. I think that's where IT still has to play a role of change agent. We have to be able to convince, and that makes IT in a completely different league all by itself. Okay, it's not just about technology, it's about being a change agent, it's being about evangelist, it's about knowing the business, it's about being a consultant. I mean, i I think the IT professional of today will be far superior than what they used to be, but they have to be in order to overcome these kind of issues.
Yeah. So I think I have some really great points. A business leader's knowledge of technology, can lead to some unrealistic expectations as well, right? I mean, so something that takes, like, it has happened with me that something which would generally take a year, they would expect it to be done in 3 months, and and that used to be a process of education, not just in terms of what technology do, but how it has to be done, right? And what are the
But
go
if I
ahead.
may just add to that, Jagdish, you may again brought a very interesting point. But that's where again IT has to evolve as well. So we currently use a lot of design thinking and agile methodologies, which where we never used to. We used to follow the traditional waterfall approaches more or less. But off late, in the last 3 years especially, it has been more of design thinking and agile, which has enabled us to enable the business also to understand how the process works. They have to. Okay, there's no two ways about it. If they don't understand, and as you said, the realization will become unexpected, will be how do you say it, it will be so weird that nobody can fulfill it. Okay, but when we walk this path of agile along with design thinking, we are certainly seeing a lot better results, not only in terms of customers expectations, as it's also in terms of the solutions which are being given to them. The acceptance is 100% within 1 week, and that is something which I have not seen in many places before this. This is phenomenal. I mean, we have had 5 out of 5 strikes so far. In all of those cases, thanks to this approach, we have been seeing a very good acceptance of whatever we have done. So it's basically fit for their use.
I would say, like, when you're trying to do this transformation, I think the biggest opportunity is to, like, adopt methodologies like design thinking, which put the user in the center, the customer in the center, and then design around it. And then you're able to exploit the technology to the maximum. So let me go back to Yogesh now. So Yogesh, what are the big challenges? Two challenges.
I think Suresh covered it very nicely, especially resistance to change. Sometimes this comes due to lack of analytical capabilities on the new data, because the speed at which data is coming, and and then variety of data which you are gathering due to this automation on the shop floor, maybe putting various sensors and integrating various processes. You keep seeing data, and many times you are overwhelmed by that data and without clue what to do with that data. And that's where second gap comes is with respect to the expectations. Means, as Suresh rightly said, means having this agile methodology where you put the expectations mapping very clearly, and then do the integration or start the digital project. uh, that's what matters. And I think thanks to agile, I think a lot of improvement has been, because if you try to do it in traditional way, it is impossible, because the speed expected today is altogether different, because we have been in career for a long time, but then the speed which is expected in last 2 years especially is altogether different. Second thing, with respect to the gaps, as Suresh rightly said, this is between the digital team and then the business. But then when you talk about smart manufacturing, even OT teams come into picture, because OT traditionally used to work in totally isolations, and now they need to understand about all the aspects of the digital, and similarly IT teams need to understand the OT. The reason is that there is no more two landscape. I think it is myth that OT is not connected to internet or IT, and we were always comfortable in that myth. And when you really started this project, you started realizing, boss, this is already connected, and then with this, you are already in the risk for in many ways. And that's where I think the skills gap between the IT and OT and then the business means how to align all these three is again the game. I think each company has put some structured projects around that. Even Bharat Forge did very good reskilling program across. Let it be leadership, let it be OT, let it be IT. Across all three horizontals, we did the reskilling program, and
So,
that's it.
yeah. To both Yogesh and Suresh, my let me kind of take a question which is again like one of the big challenges today, which is cybersecurity. So you touched upon the challenge of like bringing IT and OT together, which used to operate in like big silos earlier. So just walk me through like how are you addressing the challenge of cyber security, and especially when you see a lot of these cyber attacks are focused on those OT domains, like the technology working inside the product or inside the operation, which typically falls outside of the domain of IT. So how are you addressing the IT OT security challenge?
Jagdish, yeah. Suresh, you can take this. I will
Okay.
take.
Well, to be honest, when we started this, we got also IoT in that whole process. Okay. And for us, security has now become very, very ubiquitous all over the place. Okay. Including the fact that we are connected now to our customers as well and to our vendors as well and partners. So for us, security, well, we have multiple ways of looking at it, but frankly speaking, cyber security is always going to be a challenge. First, I think that is the first thing
Yeah.
which I think we need to understand, because threats evolve, mechanisms to protect yourself also evolve. So it's always an action reaction kind of a thing. It's very difficult to be ahead of that. Okay. The main primary, or rather the weakest link in this whole chain is obviously going to be the person or the human being. Okay. Our first effort is to make sure that we address that constraint or concern comprehensively, and we do that through a lot of training, through a lot of simulations which we run across the company, just to see the effectiveness of those trainings as well as the reactions of the individuals concerned. And then we actually go ahead and try to divide that respondents in terms of their functions as well as their roles, in trying to determine the level of risk that they create to the company. A guy who's in a finance role may have a, if he's not savvy enough to handle a phishing simulation attack, then he's going to have a bigger problem in tackling with a real world situation. So we then try to re-intensify what we do in terms of training that person. So first is that addressing the human quotient. From a technology perspective, we have all the usual stuff. We also have a SOC in place, which allows us to actually get a much elevated level of security scanning across the enterprise. Okay, and actually, it's become a very viable threat protection for us. We did have situations where, for example, the machines which used to come in some of our factories, when they had to be switched on, moment they connect to the network, we would see some malware coming in, but we could nip it in the bud thanks to the fact we have a SOC operating in real time, connecting across the entire universe of our IT assets. Okay, and that has helped us tremendously. The third thing is obviously related to the security policy itself, which is all encompassing, which we keep readjusting every now and then to make sure we are still relevant in terms of the current threats. And last but not the least, you we frequently subject ourselves to all kinds of penetration attacks, okay, or rather simulations, and also basically try to reevaluate where we stand with respect to various aspects of our current setup. And when I say setup, it's not just the security measures which are in also place, but also the protective measures which are in place to see whether these are still relevant. One thing about digital is digital changes things overnight. Okay, what used to be not a mission critical application could suddenly become a mission critical application thanks to some interfaces which are happening with it. Okay, so your entire backup and restore strategy needs to change. Your entire mechanism of protecting that application may have to be revisited. You may want to go and look at the entire database as well to see how well that is standing in terms of any attack which could happen, whether it's inside or outside. So it's an evolving game. I don't think we'll
Yeah.
ever play catch up. We only have to be smart enough about it in terms of how we go about it and try and make sure at least that the basic measures are in place such that you at least get the heads up that something is happening before it hits you hard.
Yeah. So Suresh, I think really good insight. So get the basics in place. You must have your security policies. You must address the most important aspect of security, which is the human being out there. How
Correct.
susceptible he is, how trained he or she is, and you should try to penetrate yourself before some outsider does it. Run those simulations and all of that. So I think all the right things. And once you're doing this, just to extend it to any new application, any new technology you're bringing in, it's all part of the same game.
Absolutely.
You just have to.
I'll just add one point in that because I'm sure that Suresh has covered that, but then want to tell from typical manufacturing company's perspective. Most of the time in OT problem is that people don't know their asset very clearly. So documenting that is the first step. When talking about cyber security, especially OT, traditional IT, anyway, you are trying to get mature in traditional way. But on an OT, the solution changes based on your assets. And then knowing your assets, that is a big initiative we have taken, that know your assets. So how you are connected, what are the protocols, documenting that, whether the tools is capable of supporting, current tool is capable of supporting that. And if not, then avoid connecting it. You don't have choice for that, because at the end of the day, safety and security matters most. And I think most of the manufacturing companies have started these initiatives now.
Yeah. So let me go to the exciting field of technology, the smart factory initiatives. So we hear a lot about digital twins, digital shadow, digital factory. Now, how well do you see the potential of these technologies to optimize manufacturing, engineering, and design environments? Now, first thing is that are you looking at these, or how are you looking at these? Are you able to justify the ROI in these initiatives? And what is the struggle in pushing the envelope here? So give us some realism around the whole hype around the smart manufacturing. So Yogesh, you can go first.
When you talk about smart manufacturing, it's a wide domain. And then mostly people otherwise thinks it from only from industrial IoT perspective, but then actually it covers very larger gamut. Uh, then again, first coming back to ROI part of it, I think if you keep without the ROI, and no organization is going to invest into any projects. At the same time, everyone now is clear that there is no choice but to invest into these technologies. So, taking example of Bharat Forge, means one of the first goal given to us was zero unplanned downtime in hydraulic, pneumatic, and electronics. And trust me, everyone was skeptical day one. How is this possible? But then eventually, if you ask me today, at least our 6 major lines are achieving this target. By at least unplanned downtime, okay, you can't predict everything, but then at least you know that something is going to go down, and then you can stop there and achieve that. So having realistic goal and very clearly defined goal is mandatory when it comes to actually taking the initiative on shop floor. So what all we did in terms of smart manufacturing? Yes, deploying overall horizontally the industrial IoT platform, where you are leveraging on all the real-time operational analytics. Second thing is condition monitoring. and then moving towards now predictive slowly using machine learning algorithms. Apart from that, the larger game comes with a horizontal and vertical integration of the systems. Have we reached there? No, not yet. But then, especially for our aerospace business, where you, as you know, that you need 100% traceability, part traceability and process traceability, there we actually integrated industrial IoT, then the MES, PLM, and ERP, and all the information is now available on single digital thread. And including customer does audit on that same digital thread. And that's where I think the lot of comfort started coming up. We want to replicate similar model for rest of our business. And then especially when you talk about digital twins again, the it means different to different people. I'm sure that for Suresh, a digital twin is different, for but for me it is more about if I have a forging press, and if I am monitoring it real time with respect to all process parameters real time, that's what is digital thread for me. So we are reached there in one way, and then you can practically view the forging press operating all parameters at real time, and then all the condition monitoring at real time. Uh, Apart from that, I think that's all from my side.
So I think I really loved that part, where you said that it starts with an objective. So there's a business objective that reduce the downtime or unplanned downtime of your entire line, and then you start running your smart manufacturing IoT initiative of monitoring the condition of each of those machines and being able to know when something is going to go down. So I think that's a good example of bringing realism to it, that don't start with digital twin. I want to do a digital twin. I think start with a business problem that I want to reduce the downtime, and therefore I need the entire machine information at my fingertips as a dashboard, and that's my digital twin actually, isn't it?
And again, there it's not that only digital technologies are going to achieve these targets. Of course, maybe you have to, this is like a puzzle, and then you would have different pieces of these puzzles. So one could be, of course, a downtime, or the predicting downtime, or maybe showing condition of the part. But then how about your processes? How about people who are operating the machine? So when we started doing this, we mapped this as a, we studied last 2 years downtime of these machines, and then apply 80-20 principle. What is this 20% problem causing 80% of downtime? So what is the information which, if provided proactively, will able to address this downtime? Then second thing, ruthlessly following TPM. My basic things like we are in a very harsh industry where there is lot of graphite, lot of fire, lot of heat. So how do you take care of your equipments in this harsh environment? Uh, Typically, take example of hydraulic systems. If your oil is contaminated, then obviously it will get impacted on the downtime. Or second thing, if you haven't sized your hydraulic machines properly to do the job, again it will impact your downtime. Uh, so there are various factors around that. So while considering this, we can't look it in an isolation. So first define your objectives, and then see where all digital is going to help. But then only digital is not going to help you there. You need to have holistic approach towards everything.
Absolutely. Suresh, over to you. Smart manufacturing.
I think Yogesh
Hype
said.
and real.
Let me share this. Actually, I followed Yogesh, okay, in terms of creating the digital factory in Blue Star. In fact, he was my initial guide and mentor when we started looking at technologies which could be implemented. And thanks to him and his team, we were able to actually, leap forward, to be honest. We didn't have to invent or reinvent or face many of the mistakes which otherwise we would have faced. So thanks to him and his team, I think that helped us tremendously. Today we have all our factories enabled. Okay, I mean they are all digitally enabled. We can view any factory in real time from anywhere. Okay, across lines, across various parts of the factory, across the utilities. Everything can be digitally viewed. So we literally have a digital view of the factory's operations at any point in time, which allows us to do a lot of planning, getting a lot of insights in terms of what is happening, and being able to have a bird's eye view of what is going on, as compared to sitting in the middle of the factory and just being aware of something there. But getting there was not easy. It took a lot of effort, because at the end of it, you need to have a lot of people convinced about what these things mean as well. But thanks to Yogesh and his team's insights into what happens, we were able to adopt many of his ways of doing things as well. Okay, so we sincerely appreciate Bharat Foj for that. We
Thank you.
have got
Thank you.
another side of the point, which is related to our equipments. Okay, especially the big chillers which we have sitting in various customer sites. I've read about digital twin, digital shadow. I've been reading about it for a long time, but frankly speaking, I never understood it. I'll be very honest and candid about it. I still don't understand it, because for me, it's a concept. Maybe one day it will make sense to me. But let me take it a different way. So today I've got my most of my chillers connected over IoT. Okay, and we have a central monitoring station which allows us to view what is happening on those chillers. We got a model of those chillers also, in which we are able to see what is happening within that chiller. As per some people, that is the digital twin. Okay, because it is showing me what is happening in real time on a digital view, but for me it's just a view. Okay, and the data which is being shown is much more important, and the interpretation of the data from through automation is what is more important, because it allows me to ensure that I can monitor a huge number of chillers without having to go through each chiller. I'm not going to sit and look at a digital twin of a chiller. I can't, right? I mean, I will need five equal number of people to do that. But it's the interpretation of that data and the creation of the alerts around it which actually help us a whole lot. But the fact that I can view the data in real time on a chiller's how do you call it, the design, helps us understand how it is doing. Okay, number one, we've got two interesting side effects because of this. Although we hadn't planned it like that, we knew there was something, but we never understood it. There was a manufacturing side effect and there was a R&D side effect. Now both these people can now also take a look at what is happening. These are the products they have designed and they have manufactured, right? So how it is behaving vis-a-vis the original design configuration, how it is behaving from a manufacturing standpoint in terms of whatever considerations they have taken, it allows them to get real-time information on various operating parameters. We always used to have this need for field defects, right? Such that manufacturing is able to understand what happens, do a proper RCA on it, and then be able to see how to improve. Today, I get that in real time, more or less, and that is proving to be of a lot of value as well, because now we didn't anticipate the original problem. Well, looking at what Yogesh said about objective, original objective was how to reduce the service cost and be able to render service to a customer who is not close to my any of my service engineers location, where it would typically take a few hours if not a day to get. So that was the original business problem which we started with. Where we have come now is far ahead from what it was. Today we are looking at design optimization, we are looking at manufacturing optimization, and service itself is looking at ways and means. Thanks to the data, now we can apply a lot of analytics on it as well. So we are looking at much more proactive steps as compared to reactive in terms of customer satisfaction.
I think a very important point there, Suresh bhai, is that it may start with solving one particular problem, but the moment you start generating that data, the moment you start that data is being looked at by different people in different ways, the opportunities start arising. The thought process starts start working in terms of how can I optimize this for design, how can I optimize this for manufacturing and all that. I think those are some really good insights. And now let me also again go to something again interesting, high potential, but again try to bring in some some real life experiences into it. AI/ML. So where are we in terms of unlocking the enormous potential of AI, machine learning, deep learning, advanced analytics, etc.? Given the fact that manufacturing systems can generate a huge amount of streaming data, machine data, and all that. So any case studies or POCs, and I also want to understand from you, from the for the benefit of the audience, that like what are the real challenges in getting these going or getting these scaled up?
Yogesh, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So when you talk about AI ML, it's all about data. And then when you talk about data, it is all about right data and right at right frequency. And that's where actually everyone is struggling, or most of us are. I will not say everyone, but then most of us are struggling. Take example, miss, where would I use AI ML in manufacturing? Okay, miss, finance side and then supply chain side is altogether different story. But then suppose I want to predict the downtime of forging press. So it is very easy to say, but then if you really look at a forging press, it's like a three-storied kind of a building kind of equipment. And then once in a few years, you would have opportunity to see what is inside it. Otherwise, you will just imagine it based on the design which is provided by the supplier. So then where would you put the sensors? So naturally, you would put sensors outside the on the presses wall, and then challenge comes: how do you interpret the signals or the vibration pattern or the acoustic pattern or any other pattern which is the sensor is throwing? So building this signature itself is a Herculean task. And initially, when we collected data from our initial industrial IoT platform, we realized that there is no point in working in that manner. You need to have the data collection at edge, and then the computation or signature assignment should happen at a edge level only. And that's where we started developing our own kit of fusion sensors and put that on the press and then started analyzing this data. One thing happened is, okay, we could start predicting the downtime, but then the reason still no. So now we started this holistic journey of mapping the causes to the downtime, and in start labeling the pattern of these failures. Slowly we'll reach there. The other use case, of course, is a little simplistic with respect to vision systems, where the part inspection using the video system, that also we build our own algorithm. See, vision systems are in existing for very long time. But then the cost of vision system still is prohibitive if you want to deploy it horizontally everywhere. So how to bring this low cost automation and then still accuracy, maintain that accuracy using machine learning algorithms? That's where we are experimenting a lot. We are reached somewhere, but then it's still, this is still under DOE, and then maybe it will go for another 3 to 6 months for DOE. But then we are confident that this experiment will be successful and we'll be able to deploy it horizontally.
No, that's really interesting insight that, first you need to put the data collection mechanism, then you need to collect the data, then you need to identify those signatures, the patterns, and, only after that, something substantial starts
Yeah,
happening.
and then
So,
most important there, Jagdish bhai, is the domain expertise.
yeah,
Because who understand the forging place thoroughly? Because it's not that some IT consultant can come, because if you typically call IT consulting companies for this problem, then people talk, all people talk about algorithms. What is algorithm going to do? Because at the end of the day, it will tell you that something is going wrong, but then it can't predict what is going to happen. The only functional domain expert, unless he work hand in hand with the ML expert, I don't think this problem will be able to solve.
absolutely. No, no, I think that's a very important thing, that you cannot keep the business out of it. The business domain experts, continuously running it past them as to, how the signals or how the signatures relate to the actual, reality of the machine. I think that's very important. Suresh bhai, what about your experience?
I think, well, Yogesh, what we said in the last, I think that's one of the biggest experiences we are having. But let me just take a step back first. See, there are two kinds of data, right? One which is standard, straightforward business data, which is your process related, which could be a financial, it could be a supply chain related, it could be, typical standard processes which are running, which are straightforward, and you've got a zillion consultants who can help you with interpretation of
Yes.
data. And many people can quickly understand it as well. There is a second side to that, which is data which is originating from equipments, whether it is our chillers or whether it's related to factory machines, especially related to our equipment. That's where you need knowledge of dynamics, thermodynamics, electrical, electronics, mechanical. Okay, can't find somebody who understands this and digital or this and analytics. Okay, we had a huge challenge because we were seeing the data coming in, but we couldn't really find anybody who could help us put together any kind of MVPs around this. Okay, we did try with one particular company and we did produce something, but the quality was suspect. Nobody could understand whether that data which was being thrown up as predictive alerts were reliable or not. There was a third parameter which surfaced. It's the operating condition at that point in time in that customer site, okay, which was unknown. We didn't know what the load was, for example. We didn't know how many people were there in that place. We didn't know what the outside climate was. So there are many such unknowns which also have an effect in terms of how the equipment functions or how the equipment is used. Okay. So there were three different aspects which we were trying to tackle. In the last 2 years, we made some headway in terms of bridging that domain gap by bringing in some people and then putting them through this. And they were smart, forward-looking people who understood our equipment, who understood thermodynamics, who understood electrical, mechanical, and who had the literally the foresight to also start envisioning what data means. And thanks to their help, we actually were able to put together a number of use cases which we are currently in the process of developing, which we think is highly reliable. But to get it to 100% reliability, we still haven't tackled that problem of capturing data related to the outside parameters, which also have a role to play. We don't know how to do that yet, but going forward, I'm sure we'll find a way around it. Maybe our equipment will also need to become more smarter in terms of the number of variables it has to capture from the environment around it, and that's where our products will also go through an innovation phase thanks to this. But ML, I think in the next few months we should be able to see some of those use cases getting produced and realizing the effects which we needed from this particular setup.
So now we are towards the end of our panel discussion. I still have a lot of questions, so let me just change the format a little bit, Yogesh and Suresh. Let me try a rapid fire format. Okay. So my first rapid fire is on supply chain. Okay. So in 2021, we saw root causes for extended supply chain instability, including low inventories, rationalization of suppliers, extending lead times, logistics bottlenecks, the ports getting blocked and all of that. And okay, now this is to both of you. Short question. What is the insight from the ground you have, Yogesh, in how you have handled the supply chain bottlenecks, or have you had one, and what's your advice to others?
See, fortunately, in our case, raw material is steel, and which is our backward integration with our own companies. So steel was not much of a problem. But then when it comes to overall scheduling, because of volatility in the market, the IT tools, of course, help based on the effective scheduling of overall internal supply chain. I would say more than external supply chain.
Okay, great. Suresh, any view on that?
Well, I think Yogesh is right. We were able to manage things as far as we knew what was happening inside. But when it came to the outside world, I don't think there was enough visibility on many fronts. And that is actually, let's go back to the drawing board for many of these things as well. We really need to reinvent ourselves as far as the supply chain goes. In fact, right from procurement till the entire delivery, we are revisiting our entire stack of processes and what are the automations which are currently there. We believe there's a lot of things to be done on that front. So 2021 made us realize there are gaps which we need to fill.
No, that's great. Okay, so next rapid fire is on, again, some realism in terms of how to work with business guys. So what is the process of initiating and scaling up a digital initiative in an organization? So Yogesh, maybe, in maybe 4 or 5 sentences, run us through the journey, the user journey from a CIO or a manufacturing leader point of view as to how those conversations evolve.
Typically, in our case, we always have a cross-functional team between business and IT, and then we follow agile methodology where if it is business process, of course, then you will map it on the basis of design thinking, and maybe will give the field to the end user with respect to what is that he will get it approved, and then start the development. When it comes to OT, of course, we do have our lab where we do experimentation and then take it on shop.
Okay, so two user journeys. Number one, business and IT cross-functional team working together, evolving the process and the technology solution. And the second is like a lab process. Okay.
Yes.
Suresh, what does it look like for you?
For us, well, digital initiatives come from two different, or rather, used to come from two different sources. One is business throwing up a problem and then us supplying a digital solution. Second is IT team coming out with certain digital ways of doing things, and based on what they hear from through these panel discussions, webinars, events, they feel there is a viable solution here which can help the business, which they then take to the business. The learning: do not take up any assignment which is not of a pressing need to the business today.
Absolutely.
If it is not mission critical today, then the adoption rate will be very, very slow, if at all it happens. So now what we do is we try and prioritize, we try and make sure that we understand there is a real immediate problem which we need to solve, which decides every single initiative which we plan and execute.
I think that's a very powerful message to all our audience, touch the hotspots of the business, where there is a real pain, where people will prioritize the induction of a technology or a new technology initiative. Okay, so maybe one last part, which is there's a big buzz around the ESG, the environment, social, and governance factors, and especially related to sustainability. And both of you are in sectors which are typically like energy heavy. So what's how is IT contributing, Yogesh?
For us, ESG as again is very wide topic. But then let's talk about only energy consumption. If you talk only purely about even electricity, we do consume more than every day. We consume around 1 crore worth energy. So any impact on energy is good contribution to the sustainability. And I'm proud to say that it's not only digital intervention, of course. The combination of digital help to show all the data, and then the intervention which we carried out. So we have reduced the energy consumption by 10%, and then other contribution with solar is reduced significantly again. And that's the way everywhere digital is helping by creating the transparency of consumption and showing the waste within the processes.
Absolutely. Great point there. Use IT to bring that transparency and the shared agenda. And then, use the analytics part to drive the continuous improvement. And 10% is a good one. And it's not only a contribution to sustenance, but also to the bottom line of the organization.
Yes, of course. Of course.
Any thoughts on that, Suresh?
So same thing. I think we are also doing similar stuff in terms of trying to find out where there is genuine wastage and trying to control that or eliminate that completely. That has actually helped us save a lot of costs and energy. Okay, over the last few months. Second thing is also on the equipment side, which we supply. Right, I think that is also a major consumer of electricity, especially the HVAC units which are used at corporate levels. So those are the places where we try and see how we can enable the energy monitoring, or even with the BIMs, the building information management systems integration, how we can ensure that there is a right visibility in terms of how energy is used. And second is also how do you optimize the operating of the equipment such that you optimize the energy consumption itself. Okay, so there are various ways to do that as well. You can keep tweaking some of those parameters such that you attain that optimum configuration. So we do that. Thanks to the remote monitoring, we are able to see some of these things as well. We want to take it up a notch level where, as I said, we want to connect to the other parameters as well. So that's where I think we will truly see a lot of other things happening around this. And for us, there are a lot of environmental related aspects as far as our products go. So thanks to the fact that we have completely digitalized our R&D and testing and everything else, we are able to actually see a lot of impact, or to understand the impact of various energy affecting or environmental affecting substances and figure out how to manage it. And lastly, you have e-waste, which we try and track to the max possible such that we're able to control how we eliminate that as well. So there is a lot of opportunities. I think it's still early days, but to be honest, still a lot of things which need to be done.
So I think a great discussion, Yogesh and Suresh, for being part of this panel. And thank you so much. And everyone have a great day.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Yogesh. Thank you, and
Thank you.
thanks, Jagdish. I think it's an
Thank
excellent
you.
moderation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye bye.